Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be ranking Marissa Meyer's books. So as always with these videos, which I've done two of, ranking V.E. Schwab's books and also ranking Cassandra Clare's books, I will link them both down below. These are just my opinion. This was actually harder than those to rank because I really had to think back on these. So I'm honestly not even sure do I agree with this list, but you're all entitled to your own opinion. You can like one more than the other. This is just all my opinion. Please don't be offended if my least favorite is your favorite or anything like that. And then also I haven't read the short story Fairest from the Lunar Chronicles because I've just never been able to find it. At the time that I'm filming this, Instant Karma is not out yet. It's going to be out in a couple of days, but by the time this gets posted it should be out like I think a week and a half nearly. So that's also not going to be included on this list for obvious reasons, but that is going to be her newest release. It is a contemporary with I think kind of a bit of a magical element where a girl has the ability to cast good or bad karma onto others. So most of these books I have read over a year ago. It has been since I read them, nearly 2 for most of them, so I'm not 100% sure of my complete feelings, and obviously my feelings could have definitely changed, but we're gonna just go with what I think I felt. This will probably be a pretty quick video because I don't remember them in full details and what I really loved and what I really didn't like about them, and I wasn't reading as critically back then. I would classify Marissa Meyer as a favourite author, but every book that I've read from her has been at least some bit enjoyable, and they're always very quick reads. So like I think only one of these books is actually a 5-star for me. Majority of them are 4 stars, which is good. So she's not a favourite who I have to pick up everything, but I kind of have picked up everything from her. So the first book in last place, and that is going to be Heartless by Marissa Meyer. And I do think I need to say that when I was reading this, I kind of just wasn't in the mood for it, but I wanted to read it because it was the last book I needed to read before I could film this video. So I kind of just pushed myself to read it to get it over and done with. And I don't think I was really in the mood for it, so that might be why I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, which is not a bad rating, but it's just not a new favourite or anything. Heartless is a Queen of Hearts backstory. We all know her as the villain in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, but before that she was just a normal girl called Kath who all she wanted was to be a baker, but because she has captured the attention of the king, she knows that that isn't going to happen, and she tries to take her destiny into her own hands, and we get to see how all of it unfolds. Something that I will say probably for every single one of these books is that they're very quick and easy to read. I mean, this took me about 3 days. Even though I wasn't that interested in reading it, it still didn't take me very long to get through it because it's just, they're easy reads and they are fun, but I just didn't fully love this one. I do think Marissa Meyer did a good job at trying to capture the madness of Wonderland. Obviously that is a very hard job to do and no one can do it like Lewis Carroll, but I think she did a pretty good job at trying. Also, I don't love Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, so of course an Alice retelling isn't going to be top of my list to read. But my main problems with it was just the reasons behind her becoming the Queen of Hearts. I thought it was too quick and rushed, and I would have preferred if there was like another reason, because the one that there was, I was like, it's definitely a quick and fun read, but as I said, it's her changing to the Queen of Hearts happened way too quick, especially since she was just such a kind, courageous character at the start. Like, she had not even like a bad bone in her body, so it just didn't really make 100% sense. Book number 8 on this list is going to be Supernova, which is the 3rd book in the Renegades trilogy. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I talked about it in my July wrap-up. So these are the only 2 that I've actually talked about in previous videos, so I will link the wrap-ups of both of them. I just found myself disappointed by the conclusion of this series, and I personally think that it's because she had too much to resolve in too little time. In the first book, you know, we have all this build-up and it's getting better and better and it's so good, and then in the second one it's like it's just more and more build-up, and nothing, not even a small plot line gets resolved in the second one though. And so we have all of the plot lines basically from the first book and the second book all need to be resolved in the third one, and I think she just didn't have enough time to do that properly. It was still a pretty fun read. I wasn't in love with the reading experience. It took me a while to get into it, which this is like the only book on the list I can say that for. I just didn't like the ending. Obviously I cannot say what the ending is, but I just thought it really cheapened kind of the books and what the message, or at least what I had thought the message was going to be, and that just didn't happen. I'm trying to see if I can put it in vague terms. The villains in this, some of them actually have a point, it's just their way that they're trying to get it is wrong, and I thought that would be addressed, but it just never was. Kind of. That's as non-spoilery as I can go. So it just, the way it ended was really bad in my opinion. It was just such a disappointing ending. So then book number 7 on this list is going to be Scarlett, which is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles. This follows directly after Cinder, so we get one plot line where we're still following Cinder, and then we also get introduced to Scarlett, which this is a Red Riding Hood retelling, and her grandmother has just gone missing and she wants to discover what happens. This is definitely the worst one in my opinion, which is a lot of people's favorites. A lot of people love Scarlett and they like the wolf, but I just really didn't care about those. I was kind of like nearly skimming the bits that were about Scarlett and just trying to get back to Cinder to try and get back to that plotline because I found it a lot more interesting. So this was a 4-star book, so it's definitely not bad. I just personally found the rest of the Lunar Chronicles more interesting. Scarlett was the character I was least interested in out of all of them, I think. So yeah, that's all I can really say about it. So book number 6 is going to be Archenemies, which is the second book in the Renegades trilogy. This again was a 4 out of 5 stars. So the ending in this I remember being really good and really fast paced, but I just thought the build up to it wasn't really worth it. It was still really good, obviously. It's a 4 out of 5 stars, but I think it just wasn't as engaging the whole way through as Renegades was. As I said with Supernova, when I got to the end of this, I was like, nothing was resolved from the first book, not even a small plot line. It's so hard to give reasons because a lot of the reasons that I have for these are spoilery, but there was one particular thing that happens in the first book that you're waiting for Adrian to find out, and it doesn't happen until a good bit into the third book. I thought that it should have happened in the second book, to be 100% honest. This was just a bit of build up, to be honest, for the third one. It was just adding more and more problems, and I think it should have maybe like obviously add a couple problems in there, but you know, maybe solve one small plot line or something, but yeah, nothing too exciting happened until the very end. So book number 5 is going to be Winter, which is the final book in the Lunar Chronicles, and it's a big one and I read it so quickly. Again, this is a 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely flew through that entire series. Like, I think I read them in about a week or two. Winter is the final book, so we have all of the plot lines from the previous books: Cinder, Scarlett, Cress and Winter. The new character that gets a very important plot line is called Winter, and that is a Snow White retelling. So she is Queen Levana's stepdaughter, and she is known for her beauty and her grace. But yeah, so she starts to kind of see things because she isn't using her powers, so she's kind of basically locked away. Eventually her path crosses with Cinder's and all of the gang, and it's up to them to stop Queen Levana. So book number 4 on this list is going to be Stars Above, which is a short story collection. It has a lot of interesting stories in here. Yeah, so it has some stories that revolve around the characters before the Lunar Chronicles happens. Some of them have absolutely nothing to do with the people that we see in the Lunar Chronicles, and there's I think maybe 1 or 2 that take place after. It was a very nice short story collection, and it told some nice backstory, and it also, I loved I love the last short story so much. Obviously all of the Lunar Chronicles are retellings, and so there's like one called The Little Android, which is actually a short retelling of The Little Mermaid. So there's also a couple of new unique stories in here as well. And again, this is a 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely flew through it. I would think I read it in about a day or two. It was like for the reading rush in 2019. Yeah, I just flew through them and they were so much fun. I really loved them. I loved the majority of them, but there was 1 or 2 I think that I just wasn't totally interested in. That's just one of the things with every short story collection. There's always going to be like that one story that you don't care about, and there was definitely 1 or 2 that I didn't care about, but honestly it was very close I think to being a 5 star. Just because of a couple I couldn't give it higher than it is. So then book number 3 on this list is going to be Cress, which is the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles, and this is a Rapunzel retelling. Cress works for Levana as like basically her techie, but she's been trapped in this, I think like satellite or something for years, basically her whole life, and then one day everything changes and she gets involved with Scarlett and Cinder, and so then we are also following Cinder and Scarlett as well. Yeah, this was such a good book. I really loved it. Again, it's such a quick read and it was so fun. Cress is definitely one of my favorite characters, and she's just so innocent and she grows so much as a character in this book, and I love seeing all of the developments of like friendships and romances and all of that, and I think a lot of that happens in Cress. So yeah. So then book number 2 on this list is going to be Cinder, which is the 1st book in the Lunar Chronicles. I think a lot of people would disagree with that. I think a lot of people think that the later books are better, but I don't know, there's just something so charming about Cinder. Like, it's predictable. Also, I'm not sure that I mentioned, but all of these are 4 stars. Like, it's predictable, but there's something just so light-hearted and fun, and you don't have to put so much energy into. It follows Cinder, who is a mechanic and she is a cyborg, and one day her life becomes intertwined with Prince Kai, and then everything kind of changes for her from there on, and it starts the whole chain of events that happens in this entire series, and she is our main protagonist the whole way throughout. Cinderella was always one of my favorite Disney movies growing up, and so I really loved the spin on this. So I think it just had a bit of an advantage over the rest anyway, because I have a great love for Cinderella anyway, and I really loved this twist on it. This is getting so heavy, I'm not sure will I be able to put the last one on. Then that only leaves 1 more book, and that is going to be Renegades, which is the 1st book in the Renegades trilogy. I think that's why Archenemies and Supernova are slightly disappointing to me, because Renegades is definitely my favorite one. It is the only one that I have given 5 stars to. It was so quick, so fast-paced, I was so invested, and I'm a big fan of like Marvel movies and all of that stuff, so I like superheroes, and I did really enjoy reading this. And then like at the end I was like shook. I was like, give me the next one, and I just really loved it. This follows Nova, who's an anarchist, and they are basically the bad guys. And one day she goes and she tries to infiltrate the Renegades by pretending to be a hero. And then Adrian is a renegade, but in his spare time he is also a vigilante. Both of their lives become intertwined, and obviously they are both very much struggling to figure stuff out. And also I just love this cover so much. Like, oh yeah. I think Renegades is such a fun book. I do think all of Marissa Meyer's books, a lot of them are very predictable. I actually didn't guess the thing that happened at the end of Renegades, which I probably should have, but I didn't. But I don't think that takes away from them being like fun books. Like, if you're looking for something kind of more serious that will shock you or anything like that, these are probably not the books for you. But if you are looking for something quick and fun and just light-hearted, these are definitely the ones that you should try out. As I said, I honestly don't really remember a lot of them very clearly. I only have vague memories of them. And yeah, so this is the final stack. So We go from Heartless, Supernova, Scarlett, Archenemies, Winter, Stars Above, Press, Cinder, and Renegades. You can tell me if you disagree, you probably do, but tell me what is your favourite Marissa Meyer book, and also tell me what other authors I should rank. Yeah, I am thinking of doing Liber Dugo. I'm not sure will I just do the Grishaverse or will I include her other books. There's not that many other books in there, but I'm not sure. I will see. But that won't be until after Rule of Wolves comes out anyway. But if you have anyone else in mind, please tell me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!